Peace and blessings, peace and abundant blessings to each of you. Welcome to Bad Thought Therapy. Thank you for stopping by. I hope you're well. My spring break has started. So today I'm going to have just a chill day because actually I have a lot of work to do, ladies and gentlemen. So pray for me as I pray for you. Let's pray for each other. This episode is inspired by something that happens every day in the news, the tragic death of someone as a result of domestic violence. So I've talked about this quite a bit. Every day in the news, there is a story about someone getting killed, usually after a breakup. And I want to talk about what to do after a breakup because maybe people don't know what to do. And so I've done this episode before. I'm going to do it again. I'm just speaking from my heart because I really haven't gotten organized enough yet, but I'm going to do it, you guys. So thank you again for stopping by, tuning in to Bad Thought Therapy. I'm Sheree Hardy. Just want to let you know that Sunday I'm supposed to have a guest. Hopefully that'll fall through. I'll be talking to someone, so stay tuned. And as soon as that episode is done, I will post it. So it's going to be a little surprise. So tune in maybe that Monday or that Sunday night, next Sunday night, it will be posted. So the first thing I want to say is after a breakup, you will live. And then we're going to talk about what to do after that breakup. Breakups are very painful, whether you know it is time that you need to break up, whether you are resisting, whatever the situation is. Breaking up creates one of the most powerful emotions, and that is grief. And grief goes through its own different stages. But here are some suggestions. I'm going to share them in this episode of what to do after a breakup. And if you're new to Bad Thought Therapy, this is a spiritually based podcast. So I don't believe that you can be anything, you can do anything without the power of the Most High God. And when I refer to God, I'm talking about this supernatural being who has created the earth, the planets, the stars, the moon, the sun, a supernatural being that is really in control. We think we're in control and we're not. So I want to talk about it. And at first I was going to make this a mother to son episode because for the most part, if you look at the stats, most domestic violence cases involve a man killing a woman or woman and children. So, but it happens both ways. And I'm going to just try to address it in general, and prayerfully, someone's life will be changed. I hear people say this statement all the time, and I know you've heard it where people say, well, if I could just help one person, if I could just change one person. And I didn't like that statement because, as a teacher, I'd be like, they would say like, well, if you could just help one child. No, I wanted to help more than one. But for this particular episode, I'm going to say, if it blesses just one person, I thank the Most High God. If it just helps one person, because so many people are losing their lives to senseless violence, and they don't have to. There is a way to get beyond the grief of loss of relationships, loss of all kinds of things. So please, please, please stay tuned. I'm going to speak from my heart as the Holy Spirit leads me. And I just pray that somebody is blessed, delivered, and redeemed so you can live and let live. Let's get into it. So, first of all, we can't trivialize the pain that comes with a separation, a breakup. It is real, and it is sometimes it's excruciating. It's never easy. It is never easy, but this is what you have to tell yourself, because I believe that what people tell themselves is what they're going to act on. This is why I do bad thought therapy. So the thoughts that are in your mind, what you believe, what you're thinking, is going to ultimately determine what you say and what you do. If you tell yourself you will live and not die after a breakup, and you keep telling yourself that, it is less likely that you will do something destructive or detrimental to you or somebody else. Because if you believe that you will live, and not only that you will live, but you will thrive after a relationship that has broken up and that was once maybe very important to you, then you will live and you will be happy. It's about what you tell yourself. If you tell yourself your joy will be restored, that your finances will be restored, that you will recover, that you'll be happy again, all of those wonderful things. If you tell yourself that, and you tell yourself that enough, and you begin to believe it and you begin to internalize it, you're less likely to have a healthy response to a breakup. You have to tell yourself that. You're not going to die because this relationship ended. This situation, you separated or it had to be dissolved. You're not going to die because of that. You were living before this relationship and you can continue to live after the relationship. It might be painful, it's extremely hard, but you will live. What happens is, we form these attachments, and with the longer we spend time with people, and sometimes the more things we do with people, we create these bonds. And we are creatures, humans are creatures that feel most comfortable with the familiar. So the more time we spend with a person, the more familiar we are with, the ins and outs of their relationship, the nuances, all of those different things, the ebb and flow of how this relationship is working. And so when that is disrupted, there is a sense of confusion. There's a sense of that sense of separation. There's anxiety. There's even fear sometimes. But what happens is the longer you live without the thing you had before, the more you get adjusted to the new. In other words, when you first break up, the grief of breaking up, the grief of the loss is painful and sometimes excruciating. But the longer you live without that person, then the longer you get used to living without that person. And at some point, you will be fine. And you have to be fine because one thing, and again, Bad Thought Therapy has a spiritual foundation, is I believe that whatever I'm supposed to have is what God will allow me to have. That everything is ordained by God. And if a relationship is going to end, it is because God needs it to end. Now, what's very interesting is, and what inspired me to do this was, there was a case in New Jersey, a very tragic case, young woman, 41 years old, 4 children. She and her ex-fiance had broken up. She got a restraining order. I believe in paper and pistols, but she went and got a restraining order. She got the paperwork. He laughed, he mocked her, he threatened her, and he'd already apparently brutalized her before this incident. Tragically, he ended up killing her in front of 2 of her children. They will be probably scarred for life. And he ended up shooting himself. And every time this story happens over and over again every day in the news, I keep saying, wow, he could have lived and she could have lived. He could have had a great life. She could have had a great life. What is it? Part of it is about what you believe and what you're telling yourself. And this is, because I work with young people and I've seen a lot of interesting things happen over the last few years that I work with young people. And what I realize is the reason why they're not able to produce the kind of behavior they need to is because they're not putting anything good in them. We are truly like vessels, and you just imagine a cup. And I actually do this demonstration with my students with a bottle. But if you take a cup and you think about whatever you put in that cup, what you put in it is what's going to be in it. So if you put tea in that cup, or lemonade, or water in that cup, whatever you put in the cup is the only thing that can come out of the cup. So if you put coffee in the cup, that's the only thing that can come out. If you put lemonade, that's the only thing. And we're the same way. We are vessels. And whatever we put in us is the only thing that can come out. At a certain point, probably maybe my late 30s, I started to really pay attention to behavior. Like people, one particular person, like this person cannot produce anything good. And they just have one problem after the other. And what it is that, well, they're not putting anything good in him. He wasn't putting anything good in himself. So if you don't watch anything good, if you watch filth all day, if you listen to it, if you're around it, and you don't put anything positive, you won't read anything, you won't put anything in you that's good, then it won't come out because it's not in you. It's that simple. After a breakup, you have to tell yourself, you literally have to say to yourself, I will live and not die. My joy will be restored. I will get through this. You have to believe that and tell yourself it's in you, so that that's what's going to be manifested out, is the acceptance of being able to move on and start to rebuild. It is very painful. So that's one thing. When after a breakup, it's critical for you to tell yourself positive things and be around positive people. And I just have to just emphasize that again and again and again. Whatever is in you is the only thing that can come out. To have good thoughts, you have to watch good things. You have to listen to good things. You have to read good things. You have to be around good people. You have to put the good in you, because we are like those vessels, it won't come out. I think when people break up, and this is my second thing you have to do, is, let me say this first, is you got to focus on yourself. Because a lot of times after a breakup, the focus is shifted on the other person, what the other person did or didn't do. When there's a domestic violence situation like this, a lot of times before the breakup, that person, the victim, feels that she is not being, I'm going to say she, because most 99% of the time it's a woman being killed or hurt by a man. She feels like she's not being treated well. And it's not delusion, it's real. This woman was punched in the face. There probably were other domestic violence situations. Usually before a person is breaks up with you, it's because they can no longer take the bad behavior. Now, this is why I need to get a psychiatrist or a psychologist, a therapist. Why do people want you to accept their bad behavior? They would not allow you to do what they're doing to you. But this is a phenomenon to me, and it gets very deep sometimes. Like, you want me to accept you sleeping with other people, or you want me to accept you being irresponsible financially. You want me to accept, you want to be in a relationship. Well, you don't really want to be in a relationship, but you want to pretend like you want to be in a relationship, but really you're not. You don't even like me. Like, people want you to accept their bad behavior. Normally, when a breakup takes place and a person says, I can't take it anymore, it's because they feel the other person is hurting them. And so, but this is interesting, the person who wants a relationship to keep going because they've been able to, they feel powerful. Sometimes people are dark and they feel powerful to be able to hurt somebody else or deceive somebody else. It's sick, but that's really what it's about. It's like, I can hurt this person, I can do all these things, and that's what they've gotten used to. You've accepted it. Now you're saying, okay, I can't accept it anymore. They're upset and they want to hurt you. But after a breakup, what if the focus shifted to yourself? And I mean that in both ways. Like, after a relationship breaks up, you can live, but you got to focus on yourself. Number one, if it was because of your bad behavior, you got to focus on why am I behaving so badly? Why am I mistreating this person? Why can't I be in a relationship and be responsible? Or why can't I deal with setbacks in a constructive way? I saw a story where the couple got married when they were young, and she said everything was going fine at first, but then the man lost his job, and once he lost his job, that's when things start to change a little bit. At the same time, he lost his job and was dealing with stuff. Her business was starting to thrive and are starting to grow. She was excelling, and so basically he did not handle that well, nor did he handle his job situation well. It's not about him losing the job, it's about how you handle losing the job. And so this is why after a breakup, it's so critical to have that season of, I want to say isolation, because I don't know if that's healthy, but I think you need to have a season of solitude. I think people need to have a season where they kind of sit down and they become reflective about themselves and what they've done or haven't done. Even if you are a person who decides to break up with the person, you need to be reflective too, because why did you choose that person? Why did you accept that bad behavior? Bad habits are hard to break, and when people get used to treating you a certain way and doing certain things, it's hard for them to stop doing it. They got used to doing these things. Why did you let that person do that to you? Because ultimately that's why they did it, because you let them. So it goes both ways, and you have to, after a breakup, it's so critical that you have that season of solitude where you're in deep reflection, where you are monitoring what you're thinking and your emotions, and you're trying to understand, why do I have this, or why do I have this issue? It's going to go back to two things. Number one, it's always going to go back to God. It's going to go back to your relationship with God. A person's behavior is directly connected to the relationship that they have with God. If they don't have a relationship with God, their behavior is probably going to be very destructive. They're probably not going to be a person who produces good fruit and who does good things. If they have a relationship with God and it's authentic, then when they make a mistake, when they fall short, they're able to heal. When you look at things through a spiritual lens, your entire life becomes so much more empowering and beautiful when you can say, you know what, God, search me, create in me a clean heart, help me to understand why I am either doing the bad thing or I'm accepting the bad thing, because that's another issue. Recently something happened and I was feeling so sad about it, because I've been there when you're like, you know what, I just can't take it anymore. And rather than let myself go through, let a person mistreat me, I'm going to just give up and let go. But what I realized too, though, is that the focus was on that other person. Like, if you let a person bully you, and that person at the core of their heart, they're a bully, they're going to bully you. But when you draw a line in the sand and you say, I'm sorry, I'm not going to let you treat me any kind of way, and let the chips fall where they fall. You want me to do ABC? Oh, I'm not doing it because I can't do it, or you didn't give me the time, or what, it's unreasonable, whatever the case may be. The bottom line is you decide on what you're going to go through. And then that's what, a lot of people miss. And that's why after a breakup, you got to look at yourself. Either you accept the behavior or you're doing the bad behavior. You got to figure out why you're doing it. Now, I don't, again, I can't advise anybody outside of um, having a relationship with God, because I know for me, through prayer, I have been able to look at things from different perspectives. Without the Most High God, I would not be able to be reflective or have an understanding of anything. So when I pray and I ask God to search me, and I ask God to show me, and I ask God to reveal to me wisdom, and I ask God to guide me and even protect me or tell me what to do in the natural, because in the natural, there are things you have to do, even though you're praying for God's supernatural power and presence to operate. There are things in the natural you still have to do. So that's the part that I think a lot of people miss. After a breakup, focus on yourself. So we already talked about is what you tell yourself. You got to tell yourself positive things. You will live, you will not die. And number two, you got to focus on yourself. Here's another thing that's really hard, and it helps you let go. Once bad things happen in a relationship, you have to accept that the past cannot be reversed. It cannot be undone. Once evil has happened in a situation, it becomes a part of the past. And a person may decide, because you cheated, because they found out that you sleep with men and women outside of them, or you are never going to be responsible, when it comes to basic things such as finances, and if they go on a trip, they got to worry about, anything. Anyway, if you got to accept it's over. It cannot be undone. Now, that's what you got to do. You have to accept that, and then you got to forgive yourself, and you have to forgive others. I have been trying to figure out how to do it, but because I got, my schedule. But one of the things that we got to address, and we don't address it enough, and I don't hear preachers talking about this enough, we got to talk about this thing called shame and guilt and shame. We got to figure out how to help people deal with their guilt and shame in the way it should be dealt with. And both of those, guilt is something that is a real emotion that we need to feel, but we don't need to be hostage to. When you do evil and you feel bad about doing evil, that conviction in you is good so that you can stop doing the bad behavior. But then the shame comes because it is where you people put this judgment on you, or they shine a light on your bad, and you feel bad not just because of what you did sometimes, but also because the light now is shined on your bad. That is shame. And a lot of people do not know how to deal with shame, because you can actually not be shamed because you do something wrong, and you can free yourself, because with God you can free yourself of shame, and you can free yourself of guilt with God. You can't, I don't know if you can do it without him. Again, this is Bad Thought Therapy. It is a spiritual podcast. I don't know if you can do it without him, but you got to free yourself of shame. And here's what I mean by that. So there was another story. Again, I've been watching the news and reading crazy stuff. But anyway, there was this other story that we saw yesterday. My daughter and I saw this story. No, that was me. I read this article. This lady killed her husband. The way she killed him, she poisoned him. She got away with it for a while. And her daughter, who had suspiciously, they believed that she had killed her husband. So this is a killing mother-daughter team. My goodness. Betrayed her mother. And through that betrayal, make a long story short, the person who she betrayed, the daughter betrayed, ended up telling the police that this woman killed her husband. So the police did an investigation, and they found out through text messages between this mother and daughter killer duo that there was definitely something suspicious, and that she more than likely killed her husband. Gotten away with it for months, was living her life, and y'all, it was all over money. She married the guy, not even liking the guy. This happens a lot. She didn't even want to be with the guy. She didn't even like the guy. But she saw this guy as a sucker, and she was going to get some money, and she did. But this is what happened. It came out. The police found out about it. And these text messages were explicit, where they were basically planning his death. They had tried to kill this man in so many ways. And what got him was that, I don't even want to say the name of the poison, but anyway, it finally got him. They finally killed him. All right. And the family, the way she got away with it was he had health problems. So the family thought that he just succumbed to these health problems that he had. But actually, the lady had poison. This man could be alive today. But here's where it gets very interesting. Even though the police were able to find the poison in her house, find that it was delivered to her house, see the text messages between she and her daughter. This lady killed herself. And you know what her words were? That she wrote a single note before she killed herself. I did not kill my husband. She died denying that she did something that clearly she did. And you know why? Because of shame. Shame is an emotion that we've got to teach people how to deal with. And this is what you have to work through after a relationship. A lot of people feel shame, when really shame is something that is projected on you, but you don't have to receive. They feel shame that their bad behavior has been exposed, or they may feel shame that they feel like a failure because the relationship didn't work, and especially if they've never had a relationship that works. So here it is again. I failed again. I can't get along with anybody. Whatever they're mentally processing, they feel shame for. But what if you could work through that shame? Because nobody can judge you, and people can act like their life is all perfect and they've never done anything or gone through anything. That is a lie. And they have. But you don't have to internalize the shame that is placed on you. How can you imagine how freeing it is if you can say, yeah, I did it, and I wish I hadn't done it, and I regret it. I tell people all the time, I'm in conversations. There were times that there was something that I did, and I remember my daughter and I, we were dealing with this, and I was like, you know what? I regret I did it. I did it. Well, it was that I could deny. And I was like, you know what? But now I'm in the process of recovery. What if you could just face it and say you did it? And I've actually seen that happen too, where I saw recently this one lady, She had done a horrendous crime, but she was younger. She had killed one of her children. She gave birth to a child that she mutilated and killed, and she buried the child, and it went an unsolved murder for over 20, 30 years. And they finally, through DNA, they were able to trace it back to her. And at some point, she was in the interrogation room. She denied it at first, but at some point, she was like, I did it. I did it. And you know, when a person just says, I did it, like, it's not really much you can say that. Well, why? Well, I felt desperate or whatever. You got to get the shame off of you. And the faster you get that shame off of you, the faster it is you can heal and move forward. If you do something wrong, you just got to say, I did it. I messed up. And it cannot be reversed. It cannot be undone. And what you do, this is how you get rid of shame. When you make peace with God, when you have asked God to forgive you, when you truly have a repentant spirit, you do not want to do that evil again. And you know that God knows it, and you really believe, in your heart, you really don't want to do it, and you really feel remorse and regret. And then you say, okay, I'm going to allow myself to feel that remorse and that regret and that grief. And then I'm going to move forward because there's nothing else I could do, because I cannot go back and reverse it. I can't undo it. That's how you free yourself of shame. And that's the issue that a lot of people have after a breakup. They're so ashamed. And then people come out, and sometimes, some people are more graphic than others. Like, they will tell everything that happened in the relationship or everything that you did. Again, you would not die. They're just telling their story. That's their narrative, and it's usually not true. And guess what? But you deal with the shame and you make peace with God. That's how you deal with shame. I messed up. It was wrong. It was evil. It was dirty. Whatever it was. And I wish I hadn't done it. And I've asked God to forgive me. And when you truly have asked God to forgive you, and He has, and you have forgiven yourself, and when you repent, that means that you no longer do the thing that you did before. You're so disgusted with what you did, you will not do it again. That's what you got to do, because that shame will lead people. And I marvel at it though. The shame will end up leading them to do something even worse and bring more shame. It's bizarre. But that's another thing, going back to what you do after the breakup. When you don't have that time of solitude, you're not thinking. And when you're not thinking, you're truly operating with blind emotions, sheer emotions. You're going to make decisions that are destructive. And so when we let our emotions rule us and get the best of us, anger and pain and frustration and disappointment, and we let all those emotions get the best of us and we act on them, something terrible is going to happen. And that's what you see in the news almost every day. There is no emotional regulation because people are not taking. First of all, again, let's go back over the things. Number one, you got to tell yourself good things. You got to tell yourself you'll be all right. Tell yourself you'll recover, that your joy will be restored, that you will live, that you will not die. Then number two, as I said before, this is so critical. You got to focus on yourself. What is causing these issues? Either you're on either side of it. Either you're accepting the bad behavior or you're doing the bad behavior, but both people have to focus on themselves. And during that time of solitude, which is critical after a breakup, where you're reflecting and you're doing some deep dive into your thoughts, into your emotions, and you are connected to the Most High God. Now again, if you can do it without God, I would be shocked. But if I ask God to search me, if I ask God to heal me, if I ask God to inspect every aspect of me, He will do it, and He will reveal what is wrong, what I need to change, how I need to look at things differently, how I need to mentally process. And I'm telling you, again, accept the fact that it's the past. This is another tough thing about breakups, is that people break up, and then because of that attachment, we have a natural tendency to try to reconnect, because again, during the breakup, it is a time, it's almost like withdrawal. It's a time when we're trying to get adjusted to not having the thing or the people that we had before. But the longer you are separated, the longer you are not doing what you did before, the easier it is for you to handle the new. The new becomes the norm, and that new is without that person, and you will live. But here's a thing that it can really mess people up, and I've been there and done that, where you open the door and you let people back in. So you break up, you let them back in. You go back and forth, and all that does is that prolongs the healing. It disrupts the healing. When you see a person manifest bad behavior, now this is strong, and I know some people may not agree with it. You gotta let them go. You have to let them go. You have to because what happens is this: they may really change, or they may desire to change, but the work that a person has to do to change, like you can have the desire, and in your mind you could be thinking being a better person, or you're not going to do A, B, C. But here's the thing: in order to not do A, B, C, that person would have to do a lot of work, because number one, they've got to listen to something different, watch something different, go to different places. They'd have to have a mentor. Now, some people are willing to go through this process of healing, reading certain things. If you ever study a person that has truly gone through the transformational process, they will tell you it was not easy. They did a lot of stuff. They did a lot of reading. They had mentors. It just doesn't happen easily. It truly is work. And most people are not willing to do that. The other thing is, if you decide to be in a relationship with someone that you broke up with before, every time that person does something that even looks slightly like what they did before, it's going to trigger you because of memory. So I say that one of the things that helps you heal is to truly let go and let live. Live and let live. And it breaks my heart again to hear these stories over and over and over again, where the person could have lived, and they could have let that person go, live their life. Both people would be alive. Now you have story after story where either you got a murder suicide, or you got a homicide, and then you got somebody go to jail, and all the people around them. This just tells me too, the level of selfishness is all the people around them are affected. These people have parents, they have siblings, they have friends, they have children, and nobody was thinking about that. And so that it almost proves, like, you see, you killed her, but it just proved why she needed to break up with you. You basically proved the whole reason that she was breaking up with you, because you're a killer. Nobody can live with a killer and not survive that and be happy with that. You can't. So those are things you need to do. Here's the last thing I want to say about what to do after a breakup, and this is so crucial, is you gotta change the people you're around. When who we have as friends, and I heard my pastor say this one time, I never forgot. He said people are like elevators. They'll either take you up or down. And it's so true. What other people tell you or don't tell you can really be a matter of life and death. And and sometimes I marvel at this, because even when I'm listening to a story, I realize, okay, that's that person's story. There's another side. And everybody's got their narrative. And when they're telling their story, they're probably going to make themselves seem like the good person and the other person's the villain. But a real healthy friend is going to help you understand that's probably not the case. And that you got to be objective, and you got to look at things from a very objective perspective and from the lens of both of you. So it's all about who you're around. Because some people will say, well, you know what? They'll give you healthy, constructive ways to deal with a breakup. Other people just co-sign, and they want to, lean in and say all these negative things. You already calling the person names. You're already making the person seem like the villain, and they might just join you. And that's not healthy either. And that's just like egging you on and getting you to do something destructive. And then, yes, they'll be able to, if you're alive, they'll be able to put on your books. But that's not what we want. You want to live, and that other person wants to live. You will live. That's why I titled this, You Will Live. You will live after a breakup. Nobody has to die. Nobody has to get hurt. Your joy can be restored. You can recover from a breakup. It's all about what you do. But so critical is you got to focus on yourself. I was thinking about, because I'm doing my memoirs, I'm at the end of my teaching career, and I hope to God that I can teach for another 2 or 3 years, and that I will be able to share my memoir with the world. And I'm doing my memoir, and I was just thinking the other day, because sometimes I'll just randomly put things in the book. I was thinking about how teaching healed me, how it helped me to understand myself. Being able to teach and being able to work with children helped me to understand who I was and who I became because of my own childhood. And you sort of have to be reflective of yourself, because you're teaching children, you're thinking about your childhood all the time. And so it really healed me. And I thank God. But that's so critical after a breakup, is to understand yourself and why you're in that situation in the first place. Now, again, the story that inspired me to do this, the man had been abusive to her. And she broke up because she was like, I can't take it anymore. And in this self-denial, and again, if you don't have God, you will never get the truth. Know God, know the truth. Know God, God, no truth. You got to get the truth. To have the best life you can have, you have to face the truth. If you are telling yourself lies, if you have internalized lies, you can't be delivered and be free. So you gotta understand, but you can't do that unless you focus on yourself. If you can focus on the other person, you'll never get healing. I'm telling you, when I went through my middle age awakening, is what I call it. I was thinking about different things, and I got fixated on this one person and whatever I thought he did, and oh man, I just got so fixated on that. But at a certain point, it was like God tapped me on the shoulder. And God said, well, you took whatever he did, you took it. You allowed him to do it. You got to look at yourself, and you got to understand, why did you allow that? And that was hard, because it's like, and I had to learn. I mean, the hard way. You teach people how to treat you, and none of that would have happened. All my pain and my nightmares that I have, that could have been avoided if I had made different decisions in my life. I chose my own pain. And that's the part that's freeing, when you look at yourself and you focus on yourself and you focus on what you do and what you didn't do and what you don't do, instead of the other people. Let people be who they are. When people show you who they are, that is revelation knowledge for you to know, okay, I see how this person is going to operate. So now I understand I'm not going to be able to have a relationship, or I'm not going to be able to do business. I'm not going to be, whatever the case may be. It's about you. You got to focus on yourself, because you cannot change anybody else. Just recently, I was talking to a student, beautiful young lady, and she was always crying. Every day, she was just sad. She was crying. She wasn't focused on the right thing. And I wish I had done this earlier in the year, but I just couldn't take it anymore. I was like, young lady, wait a minute. Oh, I know what it was. She started crying again. This one day, about 2 weeks ago. I was like, I'm sorry. And I pulled her aside. This was after school. And I just had a talk with her. I said, I noticed that you're crying a lot, and you're crying right now. What's going on? She shared some things with me, and it was about a person. I said, well, what do you want that person to do? Like, if you had a magic wand, what is it that you want the person to do? She told me what she wanted the person to do. Now, what if I told you, if that person could do it, they would do it. If they don't want to do it, they're not going to do it. What if I told you can't change them? You're not going to make them do whatever it is you think that they ought to do. Then we got into about how you have to make peace, that you cannot change another person's behavior, but you can change your own. You can change how you respond. You can change your life and what you're going to focus on in spite of what they're doing. When I tell you from that moment that we had this little hour conversation after school, she's been smiling. And I had her write down all her goals that she wants to achieve in the next 10 years. And I pray to God I'm around in 10 years. And maybe I can see if she achieved those goals. The point is this: when you focus on yourself and you accept the fact that you cannot change another person's behavior, and you can only focus on how you're going to respond, what you're going to do, how you're going to internalize it. Because you can't change, you can't make that person stop doing something. That will free you and you can move on after breakups. And you can look at it both ways. There are some people, they want you to accept their bad behavior. And you got to accept, bro, she doesn't want to accept, she can't accept it. She can't accept you sleeping with different people and being irresponsible and watching filth. She can't accept it. She can't accept you being manipulative. She can't accept you trying to lie because you scared. You're a scary person. You're a scary cat. She can't. You got to just let that go, and you don't have to feel bad. And that's another thing is about the shame and the guilt. You see, the reason why we feel the remorse and the regret and all of those things, those are convictions from God. That's God's way of letting you know that you are doing something you shouldn't do. But you don't have to stay there. Once you face the thing that you did, that you should not have done, that was wrong, and you really let yourself, if you'll let yourself, because you got to let yourself feel bad, and you got to let yourself grieve and mourn for that. Once you let yourself feel that, and then you say, I never want to feel this way again. God help me, guide me, show me how to be a new person, renew my mind, created me a clean heart, restore the joy of myself. When you start talking to God like that, He will do it. And then you feel bad that you did some stuff you should not have done, or you accepted some stuff you should not have accepted, and you move on. And you say, okay, I can't, because you cannot do the past. You cannot reverse it. It's just impossible. It is impossible. So you got to make peace. Now, one thing I told my students recently, I was saying how when you make mistakes, you may try to move forward, and you will move forward, but other people may want to remind you. And you just have to do what I saw Maya Angelou do one time in an interview. This young man, I brought this up, this young man, she was being interviewed. She had to be like in her 70s because she died in her 80s, late 80s. But she was old. And this young reporter, journalist, brought up something that she did in her past that was not so favorable. And the way she responded, I gotta find this video. It was branded in my brain. She took a deep breath. She closed her eyes. And she said something like, I'm so glad I'm not there anymore. I'm so glad I'm not that person. And I love that. And what if the guy who actually did the killing and shot this lady and shot himself, what if he had let himself go through this process of self-reflection and healing and said, yeah, I hit her, I beat her, I was abusive, I cheated, whatever he did. But I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to change my life. I'm moving on. Then he will be alive, having to enjoy his life, and she will be alive. What if it could happen like that? If you have the right information, if you tell yourself the right things. And again, one of the things you got to do is you got to be careful about the people you're around. You know, my daughter always laughs because I believe that the number one reason people are suffering is because of bad advice. Because they've been told something that's bad, and they've internalized bad advice, bad counsel. When you get good counsel, your life can change. You get bad counsel, and I'm thinking about different times in my life when I've gone to people and I've shared certain things with them, and I've gotten bad counsel and I've gotten good counsel. What a difference it makes. But you got to get good counsel. The best counsel of all is the counsel of the Most High God. And yes, God speaks through people, and we can listen to people and get God's word through people. But do you know you can get it directly from God? And I just want to end with this. Let me tell you something. You can pray and ask God to heal your heart, to take away the evil, the whatever desire or whatever spirit that's causing you to do destructive things to yourself and others. When I'm a witness, I'm not talking about what I think. I'm not talking about what I read or what I heard. I am talking about what I know. And God will deliver you. He will heal your mind. You don't have to go out and hurt anybody else or hurt yourself. But you actually, and the beautiful thing about it is free. You don't have to make an appointment. You just have to be willing to surrender to his power, because you are going to, regardless of what you believe now, you are going to have to face his power at some point. But when you just surrender and you're like, God, I'm tired. My life is a hot mess. I'm not where I need to be. I've never been where I needed to be, and nothing is going right, and I'm tired. And I want to live. And I want to live a life with you in righteousness. And you sincere, and you mean that, and you decide that your spirit and your soul, they're more important than your flesh. When I'm telling you, when you will fall on your knees, some people that from the time they get up to the time they go to bed, that's all they're thinking about is their flesh. I'm telling you, I've seen it. It's so sad and so pitiful. But when you will be focused on the spiritual things of this life, and you will ask God to show you and guide you and lead you, he will. And your life, and you know, I do believe that people can change. I do believe that your life can be transformed. I don't believe it's easy though. And the older you are, the more difficult and challenging it is, because you've been so conditioned to live a certain way and do certain things. And when I talk about bad thought therapy, it's different because I don't talk about religion. Notice that I didn't tell you, I haven't mentioned church, I haven't mentioned the Bible. Although these things can be very powerful, the problem is you have bad religion. They can be powerful. Good church, if you understand the right way to use the Bible, they can be powerful tools to change your life. But most people, you need to get relationship first. You need to have a relationship with God first. That way you don't have to be a victim. And I got to talk about this dude. And I said I was going to do several episodes during the spring break. Probably not though, because I just don't still have time. But I got to do an episode about the pastor that was telling people to take out their charge card, get a credit card to give money to his ministry. And see, that kind of bad religion, it doesn't work for people who know God, because you already know God. They tell me to do that. God would never tell me to do that. But people who don't know God, that bad religion can get them entangled and snared. And that's why you got to go directly to God for yourself. He will answer you. And I'm telling you, you would just get into a quiet place and get alone and turn off everything, and you don't have all these distractors, put your phone away, turn off that television, he will heal you. And the things that you thought you could never give up are the things you thought you enjoyed so much that they become disgusting because they're causing your destruction. It's one thing to live on this earth in hell and then die and go to hell. That's got to be hard. Like, your life is miserable and you know it, and you know it's miserable, everybody else knows it's miserable, but it doesn't have to be that way. That dude that killed her and killed himself, he could have been alive. They could have been alive today, smiling and laughing. But without the right information, you'll do something destructive. I pray that this episode blessed you. And I just want to say again, you can live after a breakup. I don't care how hard it may feel now and how painful it may be now. You can live. Believe that, and remember the things that you have to do in order to move forward. Well, peace and abundant blessings. Again, I hope you'll tune in Sunday. I'm planning to have a guest. I'm looking forward to that. I haven't had a guest in a while. And I've been meaning to bring the guests on a lot more. So, peace and abundant blessings. Thank you for listening to Bad Thought Therapy. Have a beautiful day. Before you go, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my budding YouTube channel. Take care. Have a great day.